Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, the reviews for Snow White came out and they were reasonably positive. But we have had a little bit more talk and a little bit more insight into some of the issues with the film. And I think some of the initial sort of reviews were probably a bit positive because it does seem to have some real issues and some internal conflicts. And what I'm hearing is the film is very confused. And it appears as though the film they first wrote was very much a new version of Snow White, where there are these 7 bandits that she meets, and then she gets the confidence to take on the Queen, and that's sort of the story where Snow White is this sort of independent, strong girl, or becomes this independent, strong girl, and it's sort of this other sort of story. It's not really the original traditional story, but they got so scared by all the reactions and everything, they basically they edited out a lot of that and wrote in a bunch of very repetitive, reductive scenes where they're basically just duplicating scenes from the original film and just trying to be very beautiful and fanciful and make them sort of the live action version of Snow White that people remember within a film that's trying to be modern and go beyond that story. So they don't really fit, and you have these sort of conflicting things. So if you like the original Snow White, you'll enjoy those scenes. But if you want something new, they're just going to be just out of place and odd. Just like if you like the new story, it's just not going to gel because you've got all this other stuff, and then if you're just there for that, you're not going to appreciate the new sort of direction. And because Snow White was not a big, complicated story, and it wasn't a long film, and they've sort of expanded on it, but I think originally they did it in a very complete way, and now they've just sort of shoehorned in all this old stuff, this retro stuff, all this sort of recreated sort of fantasy sort of scenes from the first film, and they don't gel is basically what I'm hearing, is that it's like 2 different films sort of mashed together. You've got Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs and Snow White and the 7 Bandits. And they're telling 2 different stories, and they just seem to, each one seems to be just waiting for the other one to like stop and then move on. And it's a bit of a mess because they didn't want to give up the sort of new take, but they were afraid of disappointing fans by not having elements of the original and parts that people could, sort of relate to who liked the original. So it seems like a bit of a mess in that way, that it doesn't really gel. It's 2 different films and doesn't know what it wants to be, and it's not sort of blending together well. But if you don't care about any of those sort of elements, I guess you could sit back and sort of enjoy it. But if you're sort of wanting a modern take or wanting the original just in live action, that neither of those people are going to be happy. But if you sort of are not particularly attached to either, that it is just sort of an okay movie. So that sort of was like the first reviews seem to be those sort of reviews and those sort of people. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. It's not actually out yet. The box office projections are not great, but some films have opened low and done well, because they were good films and had good word of mouth. So is that the way this film's going to go, or are there going to be a lot of people who show up on the day to go that sort of aren't part of the projections? And I don't know, I just sort of thought it was kind of interesting to hear these people talking about how the development of the film seems to have gone, where they started off doing a very modern Snow White story, and then they got scared and they went and threw back a lot of the elements of the original Snow White and had to take a little bit of the new stuff out. And it seems like the stuff with the 7 what I call them, 7 Bandits, don't really work because there's a lot of stuff that we need to know that isn't there now because they had to edit a lot of stuff out to fit in the new stuff, is what I'm hearing. So is that true? Is that someone's interpretation or misinterpretation, or is that what happened? I'm guessing that's what happened, because this film was delayed by like 2 years. And although there are a lot of issues around that externally, there's, I think it was more the internal issues where they looked at it and said, no, we're going the wrong direction. How do we fix it? Well, we'll go in that direction as well. But you've got the film going in 2 different directions. So, yeah, we'll see. I'll see. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the original, so I'm going to make some effort to watch them both at some point. But and the other issue is the dwarfs. People are saying well, not only is there a real life little person who is interacting with the CGI dwarfs, but they're also on their own around Uncanny Valley and just sort of weird looking, and they're too animated for the live action film, is what I'm hearing. So yeah, it just seems like a real mess, and I've been talking for more than 5 minutes, so I better go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of what they're doing with this film, and I think it's rotten at this point, and it's not looking good. It's sort of looking good to begin with, but it's not looking good overall. And I do kind of trust the people who are saying that it is a confused film, and it's going to be divisive in different ways than what we thought, as well as some of the actual, because that was more behind the scenes and so forth. But it's nearly 6 minutes. I'm still talking. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of Snow White and its development and how it's going to play out with people.